Hi, I'm Russ. I became a Christian in late 1989, just as I was finishing my uni degree. I was invited to church by a friend of mine at uni, and I ended up meeting my wife at the church I went to in Netherton, and we got married in '92. And then, cut a long story short, we ended up at Zion Christian Centre. My church experience was a very busy one. We were both able to serve in the worship team because we're both musicians. We eventually took on the youth work, and everything was going very, very well. During probably my last summer leading the youth, I started to have some serious doubts about my beliefs. I remember the one day coming to a head after a Sunday, and I remember mentioning to Leon, saying, can I have a word with you for a moment? I really don't think I believe anymore. I'm really struggling with my faith. And you know, that was the first time I'd owned up to it. I think part of the problem was that I was pressing the problem down. I stopped coming to church. I felt like a lot of things had mounted up pressure on my life from a lot of different angles. Things that happened with my job, mine and Jane's relationship was rocky at the time as well, and the pressure I felt with my doubts consuming me was very, very tangible and pretty much destroyed me. I had what I'd probably call a nervous breakdown. I got very, very depressed. Certain people kept in touch with me the whole time, which I'm very, very thankful for. But all I used to talk to them about was my doubts, and started picking away at the very thing I'd believed for 20 years before. I felt like I'd taken some sort of religious glasses off. I remember labelling myself on my Tumblr blog as a recovering ex-Christian. But there's one thing that I tried to do, and I used to say to myself through the whole experience, that I was being honest with myself at any given point. But that being honest with myself actually turned on its head after a few years, because I started to realise that I was missing something very important. I kept coming to the Christmas events at church, and I always remember leaving those events feeling like I'd experienced something, but then it's slipping away again. I remember going out for a walk the one night, and something I never do particularly is put my earphones on and listen to a podcast. Leon spoke from a passage from Mark 4 where it talks about Jesus and the disciples getting into a boat and travelling across a lake to another region. And a storm came up on the lake, and the disciples feared for their lives. But Jesus was asleep in the corner of the boat with his head on a cushion, and the disciples had to wake Jesus up in order for him to calm the storm. And Jesus said to the disciples, "Where's your faith? You have no faith." My whole life had been based on fear for at least the 12 months before that, and I remember listening to that podcast thinking, God is speaking directly to me. But I'm not even sure I believe in God, so I don't know what's happening. I'd owned up to my doubts, and now I've got to own up to believing again. Throughout all my doubts and my whole breakdown and my depression, and then coming out the other side of that, how God had been asleep in this boat and he'd never left me. I remember telling Leon this and him being amazed by what that had meant. And so I drove home that night, and I remember praying in the car for the first time in years and saying to God, how does a person wake God up? It's like, how do you do that? And it's like God said to me, just the slightest inclination that you showed me, the slightest turn of your heart back towards me, that was enough. Losing my faith was like a bereavement, but finding it again was something else. I likened it to being completely lost and not recognising anything around you, and then suddenly stumbling across your own front door. And because you recognise that, you know you're home. It's been almost a year now since I've been coming back to church, and everything seems very new and exciting again. It's great to be back. I've been slowly getting myself involved in volunteering again. I'm really enjoying being involved in the worship team. I feel like I really have come home. People have said to me, you know, it's great to see you back, Russ, and I can honestly say with all my heart, yes, it is good to be back. I'm really enjoying it because my relationship with God just seems so different.